Oh my goodness, am I really here with the Dr. Eric Roman? Hi, Eric. How are you?
Hey, Victoria. It is so great to be here with you. And my, oh my, we got some exciting stuff to talk about, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Hey, guys, we thought we would take a minute just to bring you behind the scenes. We are vigorously planning for the 20th anniversary productivity workshop in September in Frisco, and Eric is going to take the stage as part of our clinical calibration course for young doctors. Eric, tell us about the course that you're doing here at our program.
Victoria, what we're talking about is how young doctors, and honestly, doctors at any stage of their development, can calibrate their life to their professional career. Calibrating your life and your career, because one of the challenges I've had the joy over my journey. By the way, Victoria, I don't know that a lot of people know, I actually attended the PDA workshop before I started practicing dentistry. Like, I was still in residency at the time. And so my entire life has been productive. Right?
I remember you couldn't even grow a beard back then.
Couldn't even grow it. No, I might have had like 2 little blonde facial hairs. How times have changed, right? And so, it had such a massive impact on me throughout my career in PDA. So what a really cool fitting way to hopefully channel some of that incredible career opportunity to the audience and the attendees. One of the things that I found in coaching and hiring well more than triple digits of associates and teaching clinical directors, we've got a really hard space inside of our profession right now with the plight of the employed dentist, the dental associate. And we have extraordinarily high turnover. We have ridiculously poor data. And what that really means is that our young doctors aren't getting what they wanted out of their career. And the second thing that I discovered is that financial success does not translate into people getting what they want out of their lives. And if we can't connect our financial success and our performance in doing good while we're doing good in our practices to getting what we want out of our incredible lives, my Victoria, like, why are we doing this in the first place? So I'm going to give all the attendees some really tactical strategies to be able to take back and put into their lives ASAP so that they're going to get what they want out of their dental career.
Oh man, I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for being a part of it. In September, this whole program, the first of its kind in the nation, because it's coming from PDA and we've never done this before, but it is a program specific to associate doctors. So if you're an owner and you're contemplating hiring an associate, or you've just hired an associate, your associate is stuck in their productivity at 200, 300, 400 an hour, something like 3,000 a day. We can boost that. We can accelerate that and quickly get your associates up to speed where they're producing like an owner. But more importantly, they've got life balance and they're grounded in their happiness in their career. Dr. David Port talks about that a lot, his research study and his doctorate degree, the value creation for doctors. And it really is about values alignment between the work I love and the life I'm building. And so, Eric, there is no one better in our industry, whether you're young or young at heart, that couldn't benefit from your one life system and making sure that your life path is aligned with your career path. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Victoria. I'm excited to see you and the team in September and can't wait to see who else is going to be joining us there. It's going to be an event that you don't want to miss. So here's your chance. Sign your butt up and get out there. We'll see you in Texas.
Doctor, are you living the dream or just dreaming of living? It is my honor to announce the PDA 20th Anniversary Special Conference this September 12th to the 14th in Frisco, Texas, the nation's leading course on dental practice growth. If you feel isolated as a leader who is frustrated that your schedule is unproductive, maybe your team is disjointed, or your systems are inefficient, this is the conference for you. The PDA 20th Anniversary Conference has all new features, including keynote speaker Emmitt Smith, who is a Pro Football Hall of Fame running back and entrepreneur. You can choose your own educational track to customize your learning experience. Go to www.productivedentist.com and click the pop-up, or select Productive Dentist Academy Conference under the Dental CE and Events tab. That's www.productivedentist.com. Seating is limited. Register today, and we look forward to helping you make your dreams become reality.
I love telling stories, Regan, and I love hearing stories, because actually I don't write. I really gather. I'm a gatherer of information. I'm a connector. Obviously, I love people, and I love hearing the stories. So.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Regan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in. Welcome to another episode of Everyday Practices Dental Podcast. I am your host, Regan Robertson, and it is my absolute pleasure and honor to announce that we have a special guest today on our podcast, Ann Duffy. Ann Duffy is a very dynamic founder and CEO of Dental Entrepreneur and Dental Entrepreneur Women, which is really a movement dedicated to inspiring, empowering, and connecting women in dentistry. Is that correct, Ann?
Yes, so far, so good.
Ann comes to us with a wealth of experience in dentistry. And part of the reason that I am really tickled to have you on the show today is two parts. One, because it's a special opportunity for all of our listeners and myself to dive into your brain with all of the years of experience. You've seen a lot of changes in dentistry. You've seen the different movements that have happened, the challenges that we've overcome. And the second piece is you've accepted the invitation to be part of our historic and groundbreaking Dental Media Roundtable that's happening at PDA's 20th anniversary conference in Frisco, Texas. And that's happening this September 12th to the 14th. So you are part of 5 esteemed panelists. And I don't think this has ever been done before, where we've had, magazines can get a little bit competitive with each other, but we've all agreed to come together and talk about the future of dentistry. So totally excited, honored that you are with us today and going to be with us also in September. So Ann Duffy, welcome to our show.
Well, thank you, Regan. I'm certainly honored to be here. And I just love, doing anything with you. And I have loved getting to know all the people at PDA. I mean, they're just amazing people. And the energy, I was there at the last meeting, the energy and the vibe was really just magnetic. I'm really proud of all of what you've accomplished, and we need to celebrate 20 years.
We should. I think milestones are important, and you match the frequency. And one of my questions, as I wrote my questions down, was tell us your secrets to maintaining a positive outlook on light, because to me, you are a glowing personality within dentistry. And right now, I feel that dentistry really needs a glowing light. And that is part of the reason for putting together this roundtable, to look optimistically at the future and realize what's possible. So, everything is connected, and vibrating on that frequency is really important. So if you could take us back to the beginning though, and let us know, your journey in dentistry. I know you mentioned that over 40 years, you were a hygienist and you were in the dental industry. And then you made this big switch over to publisher. So be my eyes and ears. How did this all come about for you?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's actually accidental, as are most things in life. Married Tom. In fact, Tom and I met 51 years ago yesterday. And so we were reminiscing.
You don't even look 51 years old. So I find that to be very strange, but I gotcha.
I know. Well, we're on Zoom, and I think there's some what do you call that?
No, it's not the filter. I've met you.
Thank you. The filter.
Ann.
I think it's the filter. The filter.
No.
Yeah. But anyway, we got married out of college about a year after we both graduated. I would graduate from Ohio State in dental hygiene, and he was in the chemical industry business. We'd moved 10 times before we got to Charlotte. I took 7 state boards, always worked a little bit, with the kids after we were married probably 5 years before we had our first son. And, always worked a couple days a week, 1 or 2 days a week. And some, depending on the age of the kids, just kept that going. And I love clinical hygiene. We landed in Charlotte in 1993, and we've been here over 30 years. And so actually Tom came home from work one day and he said, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start my own business. And I'm like, that was great. I will be millionaires. He's so smart. He's cute and all that good stuff. And so I had gone back to work 2 days a week, 3 kids, taking care of them, soccer, all that sort of thing. And I, at some point, needed to make more money. Like most entrepreneurs, doesn't happen right away. And we were really like kind of sucking wind. And I'm like, holy shoot, I got to make more money. And I started my first side gig. That's how I started this journey, Regan. So
what was your first side gig?
My first side gig was selling toothpaste and mouth rinse through a company called OxyFresh, which was similar to Mary Kay. It was a networking company. I'm a hygienist. We were using the products at the office. I just like fell in love with the products. I couldn't believe people didn't know about alcohol-free mouth rinse and what it could do for fresh breath and all that. And someone reached out to me and, gave me the business plan. I said, well, okay, I'll do that because I still got to take the kids everywhere, work for yourself, where you want, with whom you want. And went to the top of the company in that company. And I knew a lot of women in
you
in
went
dentistry.
To the top in that company?
I went to the top of OxyFresh. So I had the largest group of female dental professionals in the company because it was toothpaste and mouth rinse. And I was like, I'd love sharing it. So about 3 years into that, Regan, I met a gentleman that was schlepping dental entrepreneur, Business Beyond the Classroom. It was called Business Beyond the Classroom. Actually, at the beginning, it was just dental entrepreneur, and he wanted to go up against dental economics. And then he switched gears and went to just the dental schools.
Okay.
I met him at a trade show floor. The professional salesperson that he had hired didn't sell anything. And he met me and he says, well, hey, would you want to come on board and go to San Francisco to the ADA and sell advertising for us? And I'm like, that sounds like fun. Sure, I'll leave the 3 kids with my husband and I'll go to San Francisco.
So this is kind of in your blood, like from side gig to top of the food chain in less than 3 years. Opened up this opportunity. And you just went for it? Well, it was another side gig. So here I am doing 2 days of hygiene. I'm working the OxyFresh business, and then I start selling advertising for Dental Entrepreneur of the Future, or the business of dentistry. And so what that was about was it was a print magazine. We drop shipped to all the dental schools. It only published twice a year, so it was easy, and we were really successful from the very beginning. That's because as we know, students don't get the business acumen that they need to start their business or associate or any of that. And this was over 20 years ago, Regan. So it was a different landscape back then. So I did that. And then just, as things just evolve and OxyFresh, the president decided not to pay anybody anymore. So that opened up more time for me. And I like how you just framed that in a positive way. So I'm already getting the answer to my question of how you maintain such a positive outlook. I love that. Decided not to pay us anymore. And that freed up my time.
It did. And then I put more focus into Dental Entrepreneur Business Beyond the Classroom. So I started putting more focus, going to meetings. And again, because I bought it from him after 3 years. Okay, so let's back up. I bought it from him after 3 years. He was a publisher and an editor for a newspaper in North Carolina and had no dental passion. So he was just going to give up on the whole thing. I said, oh, Frank, you owe me some money. I'll just take it over. I mean, I'm like, how hard could that be? Right.
It was a good deal. You didn't have to, he owed you. So you didn't even have to put in. No change of cash. I just took it over. And then I started to get to know the authors and the people in marketing, because I had still done that with selling, right? So you go to those managers, and fast forward, I don't know, probably 19 years or so, a good friend of mine who was in marketing for one of the big companies, I called her on a Thursday afternoon and she was crying hysterically and saying that her boss just wrote in her 360 review that her smile was insincere and it looked like she was plotting something. And I'm like, what? That's insane, Sue. You are the most sincere person I know. Damn it, I'm going to start something for women in dentistry. And in that moment, Dental Entrepreneur Woman was conceived. I didn't really even know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was going to call it, but I'm on the back porch with Tom, my hubby, that night. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just call it Dental Entrepreneur Woman because I've already got Dental Entrepreneur. And that's how I got into Dental Entrepreneur Woman. And that's how I got into publishing. So
It was by accident, but I love telling stories, Reagan, and I love hearing stories because actually I don't write. I really gather. I'm a gatherer of information. And I'm a connector. Obviously, I love people, and I love hearing the story. So it's actually been a wonderful ride and very fun. And do Dental Entrepreneur Women started out as I just wanted to highlight women in dentistry. Anybody, I didn't care what you were doing. If you're a woman and you're in dentistry, I want to hear your story. And it's turned into now, of course, the movement for raising all women, and we're highlighting and connecting. And it's absolutely amazing what the women have accomplished by coming through the door that we opened, and nothing more than that. Come sit at our table. So it's just been amazing. And then we rebranded Dental Entrepreneur about 3 years ago to the future of dentistry. Dental Entrepreneur, the future of dentistry. We got the trademarks and everything because
Awesome.
Dental Entrepreneur Business Beyond the Classroom is getting a little boring. It's just like you can Google it, Business 101. So we wanted to expand and talk more about, the business side of the future of dentistry, the innovation that's there. I mean, there's so much richness in those stories of how you build a company, or what technology you use, or who do you use to have a good practice. I mean, it's just, there's so many topics that we could hit on now. And I love that part of it.
I want to go back to the women focus for a second there, because you left a very important little gold nugget. Now, the acronym for Dental Entrepreneurial Women is DO, and there is a DO retreat like every year, right? Yes. I have yet to be to one, which I know I am vastly overdue to come to a DO retreat, but every time you hold a retreat, my social media lights up with fellow women in dentistry, that this is the event they want to go to every year. They have that sense of community to it. And I am just as passionate as you are about storytelling, and my background as well. I started out in publishing at a newspaper. So journalism is, yes, it's so important to me. And the relation to the hero's journey and how we lift each other up. So I'm getting a clearer picture about you, Anne, but you had this one, woman who came to you in tears about her. Was it Susie? What did you say her name was?
Sue.
Yeah, Sue. I don't know if Sue she probably didn't even know at the time that planted seed. What an amazing ripple that had, that she gave to you as a catalyst, and you bore this entire movement out of it. So I want to say with Sue, just for 1 second here, in that moment, when you heard her crying and saying that, the doctor was being critical of her and felt that she was disingenuous and all of these different pieces of it. Tell me more about the feeling of that and what your intention was when you said, I'm going to do something about this within my skill set.
Oh gosh, I was literally livid. She was a dear friend. She was the person that would put my box of magazines under her booth at the shows. She's actually worked for one of the big three companies. So
Wow.
I just always return my calls, Reagan, always return my emails. I mean, she was just a wonderful person. And I thought she was going to quit her job and join me. So I thought, in that moment, we'll do it together, Sue. We got this. It's really Erin Brockovich. I have a little bit of Erin Brockovich in me. And so when I see injustice or something that's not right, I will go after it to see if I can make it right. And that's just in my DNA. And also the can do, how hard could it be? I'll just start another magazine. I mean, that's really what it was. And it was about doing the right thing for the right reason for the right person.
Wow. And you've published so many stories in Do, and it's always a pleasure to read them. And now I understand a little bit better, because in those stories, so many of them have a heartfelt tie to it. And when you talk about it's your philosophical reason, like the injustice you felt was just too great and you had to do something about it. And Erin Brockovich is a great example for that. And you get moved so beyond a paycheck doesn't mean anything at that point. It's not even about that. It is about changing this perspective. So when you think about and all the stories you have published under Do and Dental Entrepreneur, is there like one or two that really stick out to you over the years?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. Reagan, there are just so many. It's interesting you even asked that, because we're putting together the best of do, and we want to do the best of DE. The difference is, I think when I was publishing DE before we changed brands, it was more of the business, always business, always business. Nothing clinical in either publication. And then I started and all I wanted to do was share stories, which I've mapped on now to Dental Entrepreneur, because I think the stories are so powerful. And you can Google facts, but you can't Google somebody's story to the point where you could, but you don't know. Like what I didn't know there were so many beautiful women out there. I think we live in a bubble, Reagan, and it's often lonely. We're working remotely especially when you have your own business, and even working within a business. In fact, Victoria Peterson spoke about that at our very first retreat, about being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And all women are entrepreneurs, no matter who they're working for. They're going to take ownership in the task that is at hand that they were hired to do. And so, and they also spin 10 plates on top of it, which is an entrepreneur. The problems of raising a family, having a household, getting kids where they need to go, taking care of the husband, taking care of everybody. That's spinning plates, and that is also solving problems all day long. So my contention is all women are entrepreneurial. And so that made sense to me from the very beginning, even to call it Dental Entrepreneur Woman. What we found is that most women that walk through our door, or a lot of the women that walk through our door, are doing something entrepreneurial on the side of their clinical, or they've got two things spinning like I did. It's a couple of streams of income coming in. They might love putting jewelry together, or they might love painting. I mean, there's just so many different things that could be outside of dentistry that could make a full career. And then you look back after it's all over and say, well done. That was fun. Because you want it to be fun. And I think sometimes you need to, tap into those creative juices that we all have in some form or another. So it's been wonderful. I think the stories that really resonate with me more than any are the ones from being down to the bottom and then finding a way to stand up, and then to stand up tall. And that we don't do that alone, that we are surrounded by people. We need to be surrounded by people that will lift us up, that will take our hand, and that will, once we get there, they'll continue to push us. And that's what women need to do. They need to come together. So I'm just so passionate about it. And every day I hear another story that I couldn't believe I was going to hear. But most of them are from rise from the ashes, if you will. And I've not met a woman in our organization, or that I've talked to, that hasn't been able to do that. We're strong.
It's incredible to me, the amount of time that people spend isolating and trying the DIY approach.
Mm-hmm.
There are resources in dentistry, and yet, Anne, probably the number one thing that I see over and over again from both genders is dentistry can be isolating.
Yeah.
Which to me, I've worked remotely now for, 13 years. So I have to really, I've had to sit in that comment, since I'm not a clinician, and I've had to try to put myself in the clinician's shoes, because my first thought is always, well, you have team, like you're physically in a brick and mortar building. What do you mean that it's isolating? And then we start to pick apart the pieces. In the business, yes, it feels extremely isolating. There might only be one hygienist in an entire practice.
Mm-hmm.
So where are your peers? Where do you go to connect and have space to bounce ideas off of, and have a thinking partner? And then I started to get that whole entire picture. And I know for me in my career journey, when I stopped trying the DIY approach, mm-hmm. and I looked and said to find my community, that really shifted my mindset entirely. So is that what you see? How long has the Do community and the retreats been running?
Well, we just celebrated 7 years yesterday also.
Congratulations.
And it was
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you. We've had it. So it was 7 years, a little over 7 probably, because, by the time it takes you to get from the idea, hanging the phone up, until the first magazine goes out, that is the journey. But in 7 years, so it's not really changed much as far as the stories that come in, Reagan, because they're about women. And as a dental professional, there is that common thread. And a lot of times you don't want to call a peer that's down the street or somebody that you
Right.
know. Even when you've got kid problems, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to call somebody that knows your kid. You want to call. People call me all the time and ask for about their teenagers because I've raised 3, and and I'm safe. You want a safe
Yes.
environment. We call it a vault.
Mhm.
And then we just changed one of our principles at the last retreat. One of the principles we have 10 principles that I'm very passionate about, but the one that kind of never sat well with me was fake it until you believe it.
Oh,
Because
fake it till you make it.
yeah,
Yes.
but we're not faking it, right? We
No.
are not faking it. We are really doing it. And I mean, DEWing it. So we replaced that principle, number 4, with the answers in the ladies' room. And that resonates with me. That's another focus for our retreat this year, because if you get 10 women in a room, if you get 2 women in a room,
Mhm.
3 women that want to hear what you're saying and can relate to your issues, whatever it is, good, bad, or indifference, or want to celebrate with you. It's not just problems. I mean, this is like,
Yeah.
hey, I got to win. And understand it. It's just so much fun. It's just amazing. And I laugh my butt off because Tom and I adore him. We got lucky meeting each other and getting married and being married all these years. But he doesn't understand when I'm talking to him on the back porch after it's all over how my day went. I mean, he thinks he does, but not, he's also reading the paper and watching TV and all those things. What if I call one of my dues? Oh my God, we could talk for an hour about the highs and lows of the day and what we did. And then the brainstorming and the masterminding and oh my gosh, the ideas that come from a conversation with another woman that knows you has been in your shoes in some capacity. That's magical.
I think I think community is something that is often overlooked and so incredibly powerful. I've been watching, it's a fictional representation of Julia Child. It's on HBO Max. I think it's just called Julia or Julia Child. So it's a series. It's phenomenal.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, great cast of actors. And in one of the episodes, one of the young producers, she's a female, and they have an episode where she creates another show. So she was responsible for Julia, her huge success. And so she creates this show, and it's like By Women for Women is what it's called. And it's in the late 60s, early 70s, I think. Anyway, long story short, it makes one episode, and it was just women talking about women issues. Huge hit, got good listenership or viewership. And in this episode, they said, we really liked it, but the world isn't ready for this yet. And so we're going to table it for now. And that really wasn't even that long ago when I really sit and I think about it. And so, and being in the space since that, you would have been in that space when this was happening back then too. What is your vision? Because really you are an innovator, an entrepreneur. I consider you a pioneer. So I consider you a pioneer for recognizing the value of community and building that community, along the years. So what is your vision for the future of women in dentistry? I mean, I know since like 2018, 2019, there was more women dentists coming out now than men.
Well, let me just back up a little bit because I hear you about that issue for years ago. I thought when I started that we were further along.
Yes.
I cannot believe that we are still talking about the same things that happened 30, 40, 50 years ago, Regan. And so my vision is that we don't have to worry about those things anymore, and that women feel the power within them to whatever situation they're in, they can thrive. We don't hold ourselves back. We feel worthy. We have a lot of, we own our money. We own our finances. We own ourselves, and that we love our men. They support us, but we can do this, and we can be strong, and we can lead. So I think that that's going to happen. There's not that many seats at the table, but if we come together and help each other, we'll get there. We don't want to push people away. We just want to sit there with them and be able to make those decisions, especially when women are taking over. I mean, I'm hearing 60% of the graduating dentists are female. So who's making the decisions for the females in dentistry? The men need our help. And my job is to give women the strength, and more strength in numbers and strength in community. But I just love dentistry. I mean, I loved my career. I loved clinical. So I'm one of those people that I think it's just a super career. There's so many things, look at me, that you can do with it. So if you don't like it, then maybe you're not meant for it. And that's okay. Maybe find a different career path. But it gives you a nice platform and a nice starting point to do anything you want. If you've been in dentistry, you got to be smart. You've got to be caring. You've got to love beauty. I mean, there's so many things that prepare you for whatever you want to do in your life. And you want to find what you're good at, and then also what your calling is, because that's what women really want. We want to do something that we're meant to do. And you said something in the beginning, like, oh, you're so positive. Well, I love strength finders, right? So that's, we based do on strength finders, because that was an assessment that I've taken many, but really changed my life and our family's life. But I'm in my top 5. I have positivity. So, it's
the Clifton strengths?
The Clifton strengths. Yes.
Yes. I've taken so many of those assessments, different kinds, but I remember the Clifton strengths. So tell me what was in your top 5?
Oh, my top 5. And I can't wait to hear what yours are. So number 1, I'm a woo. So when I heard that, I was so bummed out, because the downside, the basement of it is like, you're shallow. People don't, you're really, really, are you really like that? I'm like, and I felt bad about it. But in the balcony, it's wonderful. And it's I meant to actually build people, win people over. Make a community. That's why I was good at network marketing, because I believed in what I was doing. And the same thing with this. I can gather a crowd. So woo. Number 2 was activator. Activator, you immediately, that's how I hung the phone up and said, oh, that's okay. I'll just start another magazine. It's not a big deal. Anybody can do it. And so then 3 is positivity. 4.
No way.
Yep,
Okay.
4 is communication. So I should be,
oh my gosh,
I should be a publisher. I should be gathering materials. I should be speaking from the front of the room, all of those things. And number 5 is arranger. So again, I don't write the articles. I love arranging all the table of contents and the magazines and putting the pictures where I want them. And anyway, I am living.
You were made for this,
strengths.
basically. You were made for this.
I am made for this. And so when you find that out, and I found that out 14 years ago, that I was meant for this, what I was doing, and I was so happy about it, because you don't want to waste your life. You don't want to. I took the course with somebody that was a kindergarten teacher. No, she worked for a big company, isolated in her office. And it comes to find out, she should have been a kindergarten teacher. That's what she really would have loved. And she really hated her career and worked until, the grind, until she could retire. She's retired now, but like, what a waste of talent. Find out what your God-given talents are, and then lean into them. And I really feel that's what makes a fulfilling life. So tell me, Regan, what are your top 5?
Well, I love where you're going with this, because it's the Japanese ikigai, which if I've butchered the pronunciation of that, I apologize. Some people call it the hedgehog. It's that Venn diagram. And in the middle is where you are able to marry your talents with your passion, with something that gives you purpose and meaning, and you can receive value for it too. So that's, if you're going a career route like that, I think that's something that I have followed and searched. I think that personality assessments like that are subjective. And I also believe that it's important to marry the data with your emotional heart and impact, which is why sometimes assessments like this really do help us clarify. And sometimes it helps us mirror back and uses words that maybe we hadn't thought of before. So I found mine. And my number 1 was connectedness. And I do believe that everything is connected. Probably why I am so passionate about PDA, because the doctors that we help are very, very, very passionate about comprehensive care, comprehensive diagnosis. I actually, Anne, believe that my own health journey has been a detective's work, investigation of finding my own comprehensive solutions. So very systemic. So connectedness is my number 1. Strategic is my number 2.
Oh,
so why are we doing this? And then I'll understand why it's connected and how we flow it the line. Input is my 3rd. And I think that's where you and I connect greatly. I love to gather, just like you said. I am a gatherer. I think it's important to hear people's stories and be able to share it, which is why I went down marketing. So I appreciate that very much. Then futuristic
Oh my gosh.
and learner.
Oh my gosh. So super. No wonder you're doing these amazing things. Those again, it's so nice to lean into that and say, oh my God, I am really good at this. You're very strategic. You have 3 in the strategic domain, which is amazing. I have strengths envy right now because my strategic
Don't do that.
doesn't show up until number 11. And I was like,
yeah, but that's it's okay. So that's the other part I think that's so amazing is that when you realize I fought a long time in my own career path and this way because I don't feel that I'm strong. And I break it down into the 2 categories, the data and the emotions. So I've always felt like my data lacks a little bit because I clearly think and feel with my heart. And I like that because it gives us a lot of bravery. Like when I see you, that's brave. What you did each step, even with starting with a side hustle and then taking advantage of the opportunities as they came about are brave steps to take. And I can see why Tom's been a great partner for you because you allowed him space to be brave and helped hold that space. So you guys have probably been amazing for each other, and 51 years makes sense to me. But those bravery things, I feel like where your community comes into play with this is I call them my blind spots now. I do not think they are not flaws, and they're not necessarily things that I need to suddenly become an expert at. I don't believe that either. I think it's important to equally value everything on that Clifton Strengths report. You guys can Google it, listeners, if you've never heard of it before, but each one has a very valid power. They're like little superpowers. Consistency is low for me. That's the one, Anne, that got me. So how you might have a little envy when I see people who are super high with consistency, that makes me get itchy. And I'm like, why can't I have that? Well, if I had that, I wouldn't be as creative as I am now. I wouldn't be able to use my other talents. So to me, these assessments point to us that we cannot do everything alone. Support is necessary for success.
Yes, and you have other gifts. See, that's why your connectedness works so well because you have a knack for bringing people together that have other gifts, and that brings a whole bounty of goodness. But I don't look at them as a personality assessment, though. I look at the Strength Finders as God-given talents. Like he knew what he was making me in the womb, and he knew what I was meant for. And I take it it's on a different level for me, that I know that I can do this. It's just, and things that I'm not good at, I give myself a break and I give myself a pass. I mean, my last one is individualization. And I finally got to tell the kids, that's why I'm not that great at giving gifts. I'm not the best buyer of gifts. And that they look at the shirts from, tags are still on them. And I'm like, I said, you guys, just give me a break. It's just not one of my gifts. I have other gifts. And it's really helped with self-confidence and also understanding other people, because we took it as a family. And so then it helped me really understand why Tom is an entrepreneur. And I begged him to go back to corporate. I mean, we were living the life. I was a corporate wife and I was darn good at it, and I was like, oh, please go back. And then I found out, no, he's all entrepreneur. Let him do his thing. And I will support that because that's who he is. So it's a lovely thing to accept other people for who they are. And
it is, yes. There's the Sean Zayas and I was just on his show earlier this week.
Oh, I love him.
I do too. And we talked a lot about obviously authenticity and having the gift of being able to show up as you are and how difficult it actually is. I mean, it sounds so simple, but social constructs and cultures, and there's a lot of external factors that really, make us put filters on and show up in different ways. And I'm wondering, especially with Woo being your top one, which is just an incredible number one to have, and the world feels more connected. Like there's more technology that connects us. I'm able to work from, Zoom, and I can meet with doctors in New Zealand if I want to. It's incredible gift. Social media exists, text messaging exists, group chats exist. Like there are lots of ways to be together and connect, which is wonderful for the Woo. But I'm wondering what sort of challenges you feel are on the horizon or you're experiencing now within dentistry and community, that your eyes are that you're observing right now or fixing to solve in your way?
I just, I don't think there's any big problems right now. I think that, obviously with the practices and retaining, uh, your team, I, I think we need to move away a little bit from the mindset of business, 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 money, money, money. The soft skills, the culture. People want to work for somebody and with somebody that believes in something. It's deeper than that. We just don't want to show up for work and punch in and punch out. I mean, I would say, and good people like that attract good people. So it's not been hard, Regan. I mean, I have done nothing other than open the door, and good dues find good dues. So we're attracting these good people when they all come together and they're not alone. They can actually maximize their talent. And I think that is something that we need to really work on, because women have historically have had the imposter syndrome, or I'm not worthy, or the confidence thing, and so we as a community help build that up in somebody and help them to be successful, just like you do with PDA. Again, alone, they don't know if they can do it. And we just did a podcast. I loved doing a podcast with Sarah and her sweet, oh my gosh, Jet, was it? It's her doctor. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name.
Oh, Dr. Amy Wenninghoff.
Amy. Oh my gosh. And one of the things that really resonated with me is that she should have started. She's like, I should have started my practice 5 years earlier. I could have, but I didn't have the right people around me. So I do think finding your community and finding your tribe, and I don't care who it is, but find it. And I think that's something that's going to be the future of our success in dentistry, because we have to fight some of the things like the insurance companies, and we have to fight, patient flow. There's so many things that are involved in running a successful practice, that we cannot do it by ourselves. And we have to find people that have other gifts that we can plug in. And I think that's one of the problems that we've had in the past, and one of the things that we're going to solve in the future by building these communities, because you see them popping up. And I just think it's marvelous for our industry and our career paths.
There was I don't know if you've heard in the news, the Arizona tea, the drinking tea, the iced tea, gentlemen. Have you heard that story?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh. So he was asked recently, the CEO, he was asked, I think he's the founder also, he was asked recently why he was refusing to increase the price of his iced tea, because everything else had experienced inflation. Somebody noticed that they hadn't increased their prices. And he said, the sole purpose of life isn't about greed. And we are a debt-free company. We are a successful company. I don't understand why I would want to. Essentially, I mean, he didn't say this per quote, but I'm paraphrasing. I mean, why would you want to screw the consumer, basically, when we are doing well? And in that moment, I filter everything through the data lens, and that's your profit, that's your overhead, that's the business model, that's the structure and architecture through the emotional heart. And I realized this gentleman has it balanced, and it is a Zen act to be balanced and give equal weight to the emotion around the person, the value, what it brings. And in healthcare, I think that's one of the most fun puzzles for me and individually to solve, but us as a dental community, because we all at our heart care about the health of the patient and want to bring that optimal health to light. And also at the same time, we deserve to be successful. We deserve to be thriving. We deserve not to burn ourselves out. And when I see the pendulum swing one way or the other a little too hard, that's when I start to see these problems and challenges arise. And I think all of our dentists deserve more than that. And I am so grateful that you are going to be with us in September and on our panel. It shows me that you definitely lead from the heart. And my last question for you. Okay. Thinking of legacy, you've already made a tremendous impact in our industry and the world. What type of legacy do you hope to leave?
It was just simple. The simple reason that I started Do was, I fell into dental entrepreneur. I will say that. I purposely started Do, and it was all about love. It was literally about love. And the reason I put Strength Finders at the base of it is because what that did for me was help me fall in love with myself.
Mm.
and the way I was made. And I want people to love themselves, want them to love others, want them to love their careers. It's just so simple. That's all I really want. And I don't have anything else. There's nothing more than that. That's
Beautiful.
basically it. I wish it was more complicated. It's not that complicated.
I think that's a beautiful answer. I don't think it needs to be complicated to be powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. More love in the world, and we'll be a better place for all that. And you said something too, I want to just touch on. It's not just the patients, Regan, it's the team too, the leaders. And that's what I love about PDA, that you start with the leaders, and the leaders that I met, they love their team. They're there to boost their team along with their patients. And that's going to make dentistry great. That is going to make dentistry great. Again, and I just think that your culture that just flows into all the people that you meet and all the practices and the dentists and their teams. That is something that's beautiful. And you just can't get that by being alone. You have to get with people that are like you, that can lift you up.
Well, thank you, Anne. If you could be so kind as to tell all of our listeners how to get in touch with you, how to find out more about Dental Entrepreneur and Dental Entrepreneur Women, and anything else. Give us all your social handles, everything.
Golly, there's so many. You can definitely find us. We actually have a website, dentalentrepreneursmedia.com, and you can go down the Dental Entrepreneur, the Future Dentistry, and Dental Entrepreneur Women through that, or just go to dew.life, not .com, .life for Dental Entrepreneur Women, and then dentalentrepreneur.com for our other publication. And we have podcasts, and we've got Instagram. I mean, you'll find us, I'll put in the show notes, but we've got the newsletters. We've got all sorts of things. So, free newsletters, and anybody that has a great story, please reach out, because I want to tell it. And I think I think you're worth telling it. So
what is your,
we're here for you.
Where do people tell you a story? Do they email you?
Yeah, they can email me at Ann Duffy at, let's go Ann at Dental Entrepreneur Media, if you can spell it.
ANNE?
Yeah, ANNE at dentalentrepreneursmedia.com. And if you can't spell entrepreneur, then you just go to Ann Duffy, ANNE, Duffy, DUFFY at DEW.life. That'll get to me. I mean, I've got like 4 or 5 emails that they'll eventually find their way to my inbox. So, and then you can reach out on LinkedIn and Messenger, we're all over social media. I've got a fabulous team. I could not do it by myself. I've got the best team ever. They have drunk the Kool-Aid. I don't know which would that be. I don't know. As an editor, I don't.
They've downed the Kool-Aid.
They down the Kool-Aid, and they believe in our mission, of raising all dental professionals and men and women in our country and our communities and across the world.
Well, thank you, Anne. So in addition to being at our 20th anniversary conference, the September 12th to the 14th in Frisco, Texas, is there also a DEW retreat coming up this year, or events that you want to highlight?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. Let's see, this is our 6th annual retreat. We have sold out every year. We have about 100 spots left, and we're going to be 220 amazing women in Charlotte, North Carolina. We know women don't, and we will sell out. So just, no one signs up until August. So, I mean, we're really far ahead of it than we were, but it's November 14 through 16. It starts at 3:00 on that Thursday, November 14th, and we'll be over at around 12:30 on that Saturday, so you can get home to your families. And it's just so yummy, so delicious. If you're not happy when you get there, you'll be happy when you leave. And we're actually doing some other really great things, Regan. We're putting in a DEW classroom this year for how to start a business, how to run a business, how to get it ready to sell, all those things. And I'll be reaching out to you and your team to help us build that, because everybody wants to know how to do that. And we have the answers in the ladies' room. Yeah. So, so please reach out, sign up for the retreat, get there, get your besties there. Regan, I hope you can come. You have a seat. I got a seat for you. So you definitely need to be there. So people, they've heard about you forever, and they just need to meet you. And, it gets everybody out of their circle into one big circle of women supporting women.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you, Anne. I look forward to seeing you in person soon. And thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Reagan. I'll see you in September at the PDA 20th anniversary. Yay.
Sounds
All
good.
right. Best to everybody.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you, and we'd love your help. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.